to the Mental Health Agenda, a program designed to promote wellness by presenting topics and guests to increase mental health awareness in our community. I'm your host, Judy Gardner, Executive Director for NAMI Washtenaw County. Today our guest is David Boeving from YpsiWrites. David has a master's degree in creative writing from Eastern Michigan University and a master's in social work from the University of Michigan. David combines these two specialties into a unique practice where he uses writing as a therapeutic tool to support people with issues ranging from grief to anxiety. David, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. David, what inspired you to write? And how did it all begin?
So I remember writing at a pretty young age. I think my mom would often take me to like the library a lot, especially over the summer. So those kind of reading programs where you would like get a prize if you read this many pages or like this many increments of 15 minutes or something. And so I remember doing that a lot as a kid. And at some point I just remember like writing little stories in journals. You know, in high school, I think that turned into poetry, maybe because of just like adolescence and experiences related to emotions. I think maybe it helped me express emotions during that time as I was like figuring out how to do that. And and then I ended up getting degrees in it, and
And that's how it started. Very cool and very nice. When did you discover your ability to help others through writing?
So I think during my first master's in creative writing from EMU, one of my professors was offering this kind of poetry workshop in the women's prison in Ypsilanti, Women's Huron Valley. And so as a grad student, I was kind of invited to take part in that, and just kind of taking part in those workshops and seeing the kind of incredible writing of individuals who, you know, ended up there. It was kind of really moving, and I think you could see just like the importance of writing in that really kind of unfortunate place.
Right. That was good. That was a great opportunity to have that kind of outlet for the folks that were incarcerated at the time. That's wonderful. David, share how YpsiWrites began and who it serves.
Yeah, so YpsiWrites began in 2019 as a collaboration between 3 different parties. So the Campus of Community Writing at EMU, 826 Michigan, and then also the Ypsilanti District Library. And so, 2018, I think it was October, was when that started. And basically, since then, we've been offering workshops on a variety of different writing topics, one-to-one peer tutoring, just like you would see in a writing center at a university, writers' rooms where individuals can kind of come and write together and maybe share their writing if they're feeling comfortable, and other programs too.
That's awesome. Okay. What led you to join YpsiWrites?
So I think that I worked under one of the founders of YpsiWrites for a while as a grad student, and then after that at EMU, Ann Blakesley. And Ann is so good at kind of inviting people back to be part of different programs. And so at some point, Ann reached out to me. Can't remember exactly what the first program was, but I remember doing a kind of like meditation and writing workshop in a middle school. And then also an early one I remember too was Muriel Ruckeiser, who's a really awesome poet. Someone at EMU was putting on a kind of play of one of her plays that she had written, and they wanted to do a poetry workshop related to that. And so I did that. And then, just kind of continued to get invited to things, basically.
Yeah, you were just at the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's awesome. Describe the relationship between writing and mental health in your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think writing is such a powerful tool in engaging our own emotions and the things that we've struggled with, and even the things that we feel good about, right? Like when you've gone through something tough, using writing to explore that can really help you find different understandings of the tough things that you've been through. Same thing with you know, kind of good experiences, right? It's like I had a really awesome day today. Maybe I'll journal on this a little bit just to really sit with those good feelings. I think so often in conversations related to mental health, we're really focused on kind of getting rid of the bad, but I think sometimes we have to sit with that too, and also, sit with the positive and like the kind of good feelings. And so writing is a tool in so many different ways.
That is awesome. What programs are available to improve mental health at YpsiWrites?
Right, so I take part in the initiative that we've titled Write for Wellness, or Write for Mental Wellness. And so that's kind of our key program, although I think everything that we do in some ways kind of it contributes to wellness and just like a sense of community in Ypsilanti. Write for Mental Wellness, though, kind of takes 3 different approaches.
Okay.
One is workshops that explore the intersection of writing and mental wellness. So we've offered one, for example, on meditation and journaling, like using journaling as an activity to kind of enhance your meditations after you've done them. We've offered another one on self-care and autobiography, and that was a really big one. Like, we had a lot of people who attended. We had people attend like across state lines because it was on Zoom. So we do those, the workshops that explore that intersection. We also partner with Wish You Knew Washtenaw.
Oh, yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, they're awesome, and we kind of transform some of our materials into social media posts through them to maybe
wow.
like really reach the youth a little bit
Yes,
more.
yes, yes.
And so, yeah, they are doing really awesome work with that. And then I guess the third thing that we do under that initiative is worksheets. And so we've been making maybe once a month, or we try to at least, depending on how busy we and the volunteers are. And so, for example, one would be like writing on gratitude. And so it's like a regular sheet of paper, there's a definition of gratitude on top, and then some prompts related to how to explore gratitude in writing, space to write. And then we print a bunch of those and then deliver them around Ypsi to the libraries, to various stores in Depot Town and downtown. Yeah, it's been really cool because say we print 300 of them one month, next month we go back and they're all gone. And so it's like, whoa, 300 people just engaged with their own gratitude or joy or Pride Month's coming up, right? So we have a worksheet for that.
Yes.
And it's so cool just to think that we're allowing for a little bit more of that in the community.
Some expressions. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And actually, it hasn't been around. YpsiWrites hasn't been around so long. And so, which is great because right during a really tough period, we went through the pandemic, the timing probably was even better. Because of everything that everyone was going through collectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, conversations between me and my boss and Blakesley really came out of that idea.
Yes.
Like during the pandemic, so many people, I think, started taking mental wellness and mental health like a little more seriously.
Yes.
Like I was at Michigan Medicine as an intern at the time, and I just know wait lists were really long.
Right.
And I think that's probably still the case for a lot of different places.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, which is, it's like a kind of good problem to have. Like so many people are trying to access care for the first time in that way. It's unfortunate though that maybe we need more providers now.
Right. But at least it brought more awareness and openness and more conversations around the mental health.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing that came out of it that I can think a little bit of a silver lining.
Right,
So we will continue our conversation with David Boeving right after these words from NAMI. You did.
You may not realize it, but these words, often used to describe someone with a mental health condition, can be very harmful. In a country where 1 in 5 people are affected by a mental health condition, it's time for all of us to step up and change the conversation. Just because someone's struggle isn't obvious on the outside doesn't mean they aren't hurting on the inside. We need to see the person, not the condition. Join with me, pledge to be stigma-free.
Welcome back. We're talking with David Boeving from YpsiWrites. David, can anyone become a writer?
Yeah, absolutely. I really think that, and actually this is kind of the slogan of YpsiWrites, is that everyone is a writer, right? From, kind of the moment that we're born to, the kind of ends of our lives. I think everyone is writing in some way, whether that's poems or autobiographies, or if you're, just kind of making scratches in something, right, or drawing with crayons. Like I think writing takes so many different shapes, and think all of that writing maybe shares common benefits.
I love the way you said that everyone's a writer, because a lot of folks sometimes think, can I write and where do I start? So what advice do you have for those who have never written, like written anything? They not even aware that maybe their little doodling or what have you is important, or how to get started?
Yeah, I would say, well, maybe come to some of our workshops. That's a really good place to start. Maybe try out some of our worksheets. You know, the other advice I would have is maybe don't edit yourself as you're writing. I think with so many writers, maybe especially people who, like me, struggle with anxiety, if you're writing and you're constantly wondering if what you're writing is good, you'll never really get much writing done. And so by kind of letting that voice float away like a cloud just passing by, you can really get a bunch of writing done and then go back and edit, right? But don't edit yourself in the moment.
That's awesome. I love the way you this is a great segue into this, because the next question I wanted to ask you is, how can writing help your challenges with anxiety?
Right.
So many of us live with anxiety, and sometimes we don't even realize that that's what that is, and it's okay. So how does writing help you personally with that?
Yeah, I think in so many ways, right? I think we're even with our programming, like learning the different ways that we can continue to help, or it can continue to help individuals and communities. You know, one thing I'm thinking of is that when you're writing, especially if you're being really present and kind of mindful, a lot of other anxieties tend to go away, you know, unless maybe you're writing like an exam question or something. Like I think that's a different kind of writing though. Like when you're working on a poem, or I guess I'm speaking personally right now, when I'm working on a poem, I'm really in that language and I'm really in that space, and not really a lot is coming to me or bothering me. And so I think like there's a kind of presence that's possible when writing intentionally that can really ground you in a way that maybe pushes some anxiety away. Yeah.
That makes sense, because I was going to ask you what types of behavioral discoveries take place through the process of writing, and you kind of just explained that.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of, I guess, your focus goes right on what you're doing, and maybe not all the other things that are in your mind. That might be running around your mind, because sometimes, maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I'm probably mixing it up a bit.
No, I think that was a really good connection. I think that, you know, there's so much that you can learn about yourself through writing, regardless if that's autobiography, poetry, memoir, if you're writing an essay, if you're writing a list for something, right? I think we learn and can learn a lot about ourselves through writing. And so, you know, when writing is paired with kind of a mental health practice or a mental wellness practice like meditation or journaling, then it can really be harnessed. And I think we see this a lot in approaches to therapy, like CBT, right, or DBT. Like writing can be used as a tool in those practices. And I think what maybe our programming is doing is kind of taking that bit and just making it a lot more public and accessible, because, you know, insurance is kind of a mess in the United States, and so it makes it kind of hard to access some of these resources. And so I really love being part of YpsiWrites because it allows us to make some of this a little more public and totally free, right?
Oh, I love that. I know a lot of folks, there's a lot of conversation around trauma, right, in our community. And so my next question is, can writing be a tool for emotional healing around those traumas? And what does that look like? Or can you help us, for some of those that are listening today, if they've experienced trauma, how they can start to process some of that through their writing?
Right, yeah. You know, so much of our experiences with trauma like tell us, or like kind of teach us narratives about ourselves and the world. Not sure how clinical I can get, but like in CPT or like cognitive processing therapy, there's this idea of the just world belief. And when someone has experienced an instance of trauma, it kind of runs into that belief. And either basically you support that belief, it's like the world is just, and if something then has gone wrong, it's like I'm a bad person, like why did, like something, like I must have done something wrong, I must have deserved this. Or you go the other way and you say the world's just a bad place. And so those narratives, it's kind of like a core belief, right? And we respond to that core belief, and it tells us things about ourselves. And sometimes, or maybe always, that's really protective, right? Like we're trying to protect ourselves by making sense of the world. Our brain always tries to make sense of the world. And with that narrative, right, by challenging that in writing, we maybe get to this idea that like the just world belief is more often like a just world myth, right? Like sometimes good things happen to people who, you know, maybe didn't really do a lot to deserve that thing
Right, right.
necessarily. And often, you know, bad things happen to really good people.
Right.
And so by writing through the narrative and kind of challenging a quick belief, right, related to what happened to you, you can be more forgiving of yourself. You can realize like who had power in that traumatic moment.
Absolutely, and lead to some of that healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is awesome, awesome. Not a person. I'm going to ask you if you could share a success story from your work with YpsiWrites, and not necessarily, of course, anyone specific, but just a success story that you are aware of or you would want to share with us today. The stories are always very, you know, people want to know about stories.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
what your story, someone else's story, or
Yeah, one that comes to mind for me, I was really blown away during the, each time we've run the autobiography and self-care workshop. People have said kind of during our ending conversation, like I never thought about pairing these two things before. Like I've been
Wow.
writing my autobiography, I've been trying to make sense of my story, and never during that process did I ever think like, how did I make it through this? Like what did I do to
Wow.
take care of myself to be able to kind of cope with these experiences? And so that was really powerful to hear that each time that someone kind of came to a big realization, like, oh, I made it through these really tough events because I was doing things to take care of myself, and I wasn't
Wow.
even aware of them maybe.
I love that because that resonates with me. Sometimes I think about, we all have a story, and I think about my own story, and I look back and I go, how did I get through that? But never really thought about kind of journaling that or talking about that or writing that or
Yeah.
even thinking about that,
Yeah.
that question. That is awesome. Well, all these things sound so intriguing. So how can people get involved with YpsiWrites?
Yeah, so we're always looking for more volunteers,
course.
right? And so, yeah, you can reach out through our website. I think all of our contact information is on there. Yeah, we run a bunch of different programs, and so if you're interested in this, we're always looking for more volunteers. By this, I mean the like Write for Wellness program, but we also have a lot of other programming as well. Yeah, the writers' rooms and
So YpsiWrites is a nonprofit?
yeah. Yep.
Okay, and so you are mostly have volunteers and staff. Do you have many staff? Or?
A tiny little
A tiny
of
village,
staff,
yeah, we understand that,
Yeah.
but we can be very mighty with a tiny bit of
Yeah,
staff.
yeah, yeah.
Are there any fees around someone that wants to become a part and learn from YpsiWrites?
No, not so far, and we're
Not so
not
far.
planning on having any fees. Yeah.
Also, so almost anyone's welcome if they're
Yeah,
interested.
yeah.
They can take part in what you have to offer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That is fantastic. This is great. We would like to thank David Boeving from YpsiWrites for being our guest today. We thank you for watching the Mental Health Agenda. I'm Judy Gardner, and we look forward to seeing you the next time.